YouTube, what the crap's going on? Wanted to bring you all a replay that Obelix the Great sent me. It was against Pokepax, so I played a couple of battles ago, or, well, for me it was the last battle I played, but for you watching it was a couple battles ago. So a couple of great players here. Interesting matchup too. Empire versus the Dwarves. I think all of us would agree that the Dwarves are the underdog, so let's see what happens here. Great swords being brought by the Empire, definitely like that pick. Also like the great cannon pick because it outranges any particular dwarf artillery. But you'll see here that the gyrocopters being brought too, so probably every bit as much mobility for the dwarves as there is for the Empire, which is certainly interesting. Deploying some pistoliers behind the dwarves. Pistoliers are not good against armor. Ooh, but these Slayer units here don't have any armor, so the Pistoliers could be quite useful there. So interesting pick of Slayers versus the Empire, but the reasoning may be because Slayers have a bonus versus large, so he may be wanting to use the Slayers to help pull down cavalry, and if he can damage them with his gyrocopters, he might be able to take them out with his with the Slayers. So if the Dwarves move up and kind of push some of the advantages they have, they might be able to do well here, just based on the army picks. But the Wizards, so we got, this is not the Wizards, this is just flying cavalry units. That's just an Empire captain on a Pegasus. And then I'm assuming we should have a Wizard here. I didn't look on the intro screen. No Wizard against the Dwarves. I mean, against the Dwarves is probably not the end of the world, but definitely interesting to see the Empire without a Wizard. So the gyrocopters definitely trying to push in their advantage against the Empire Knights. The cannons are firing at the gyrocopters. I mean, they're not going to be wildly accurate versus the gyrocopters, but if they hit them, they'll do a fair deal of damage. But the Empire Knights don't want to be taking this damage either. You got the Pegasus can catch gyrocopters, or at least get darn close to. Yeah, it can catch them. It's faster. Well, I thought it was faster. They're the same speed. And they don't want to, well, I mean, it's just a wizard, so I'm not sure the wizard really wants to be in this combat either, especially if the other gyrocopters pull back and kite it and start shooting it. Definitely not ideal, but a solid hit there from the cannon, but I mean, it's not doing a whole lot to the gyrocopters. I don't know if they qualify as large. You definitely see that the wizard is getting some work done in melee. Here, the gyrocopter's kind of pulling back. Going to be doing a ton of damage to the Empire captain. Sorry, I don't know why I said a wizard a minute ago. It's not a wizard. Stupid me. Let's follow the Empire captain on his Pegasus here, flying away but being shot at by the brimstone guns. It's a pretty sweet view. Not full cinematic, but a fun view with the camera chasing him. Yeah, so definitely a good idea to be getting away from those gyrocopters. I wonder if you can. Yeah, you can zoom in on here in full cinematic. That's pretty cool. If you just hit the K key and then click the unit and hit insert, you can go into full cinematic. Let's check that out too. No. Click the gyrocopters. There we go. So now we'll go into gyrocopter camera. The Pistoliers are chasing the gyrocopters. Probably a good choice, trying to push them out. I don't know if they'll do a ton of damage, but it'll at least keep the gyrocopters on the run. The two armies still very, very far apart from each other. The Dwarves wanting to push the full advantage of their gyrocopters here. They're going to have to get a long ways away, though, to get away from those cannons, and the Pistoliers can keep constant pressure on the gyrocopters. But having kept the cannons busy, it did keep the fire away from the main army, which, let's just take a look at the composition. Looks like Dwarf Warriors with great weapons in the background with a Thane. I kind of do like the pick of the Thane if you think you're going to be up against a lot of superior infantry. Not because a Thane can, like tank out like a Chosen or a Greatsword or whatever else, but they can tank their charge, and they can cause a lot of splash damage. And then combined with a cheaper infantry unit, they actually do become a fairly potent force, and they help keep your Dwarf Warriors on the field with their encouragement. Thunderers are a pretty decent pick against armor, though they can be a riskier pick against, I mean, crossbows. The Thunderers do have a shield, believe it or not. The shield on their back counts, so it's not super easy to just shoot them out with crossbows. The Dwarves are going to push forward. I mean, Thunderers, if they're given the time and the line of sight on a flat map like this, they can certainly do a lot of damage, but that's the challenge. They can also be good if they can stay behind lines and shoot into large units. The Great Cannon's now opening fire on the Dwarf infantry, and not bad results there from that one cannon so far. The other cannon doesn't seem to be too terribly accurate. They're better against large units like cavalry. They'll do quite good against cavalry. And the Pistoliers definitely wreaking some havoc amongst the gyrocopters. The gyrocopters are going to want to stay away from this. They just don't have a lot of hit points. I mean, the Pistoliers, though, not causing a lot of damage. The most vulnerable unit to the Pistoliers on this map is going to be the Slayers, actually. But they do have a lot of hit points, so it'd still take the Pistoliers a while to get that done. Let's see, is this, yeah, it's Ungrim Iron Fist. The Great Swords are going to be pretty tough for the Dwarfs to take out. There is some anti-armor back here in the Dwarf Warriors with Great Weapons and also in the Thunderers. The Dwarfs are going to have to play their cards smart here. They're pulling their Slayers to the back to protect against the Empire Knights. I like that. So Pokapax using his gyrocopters relentlessly here after the Empire player to keep them busy. And, I mean, the Empire Lord is half dead before combat starts, and that's definitely not going to hurt for the Dwarves. Gyrocopters are taking a beating, but they're still not gone, and they're being annoying. You can see the Empire player having to spend a fairly significant amount of micro to do something about it. The Thane being targeted by the Empire Great Cannon. Pretty clean miss, though. The Empire Captain below half health. Pistoliers taking a few shots, but I mean, the Gyrocopter with Brimstone Gun starting to drop over here. Thunderers are opening fire, and they're firing at a Greatsword unit that's headed towards this Dwarf Warrior that's charging the cannon, and then here comes an Empire. This is actually this is a pretty nice spot here. The Thane's going to come in here and hold these units down, and this is pretty genius, actually. If the Thane holds these units down at least a little, the Thunderers, well, now their line of sight's blocked by their units, but this whole blob would have been vulnerable to shooting by the Thunderers. That's another good way to use a Thane. You could go plug up a whole infantry unit with him and leave Thunderers behind, and the Thunderers can still shoot all the flanks of those enemy units. Spearmen coming up, being engaged by Dwarf Warriors with great weapons. Over here we had a Dwarf Warrior engaging a Great Sword, cannon, all this other stuff. The Knights are fleeing backwards. Not really sure exactly why. The Slayers are far in the back, and then we have a Dwarf Warrior far in the back. Pokapax has quite a few units here distracted with the Gyrocopters, which at the moment is probably helping him. Here comes a Dwarf Warrior, but they are going to get absolutely hammered by this Empire Knight. So that's going to be pretty rough for this Dwarf Warrior. They're going to take a lot of damage there, and this is a specific anti-infantry unit. Ungrim Iron Fist in that vicinity, though, will be buffing the morale. Slayers are going to come in to engage the Spearmen. They'll do just fine versus the Spearmen. The Thunderers need to get away. Both Thunder units are alive. Dwarf Warriors with great weapons charging the Empire Knights here. Very nice catch. Let's see. Where did all the Slayers end up? There's a Slayer right here that takes a hit. Now, the Empire Captain is a large unit because he's mounted, so probably doesn't want to be engaged with Slayers, but he is attacking them in the rear, so we'll see what happens. The Slayers get that bonus versus large. Empire Captain dishing some nice damage, but you can see taking horrendous damage in return from the Slayers, so definitely not where he wants to be right now. Thunderers getting really nice shots on the Empire Knights over here who are being chased by a Dwarf Warrior. And the Empire Knights trying desperately to get into the Thunderers. And they will succeed. Here comes a pretty visceral charge here. Ouch! Just clobbering the Thunderers there. Let's take a look at the main lines. The Great Swords, as expected, breaking through here. The Great Swords are going to be very tough for the Dwarves to beat unless they can get these Thunderers away into a good skirmish position. These Spearmen are coming over here to pressure the Thunderers, who are now just shooting these Great Swords near point blank. The Pistoliers are back over. Bombs being dropped by the Gyrocopter. Definitely not a bad choice to get in there and cause some damage. Thane's got 19 kills, and he's held up this Greatsword unit for quite a while. So definitely not a bad performance. The Empire Captain dies at this point. And the one thing about Dwarves is their morale is pretty solid. You can do a lot of damage to the Dwarves, and they'll hang pretty solid. The Empire Captain, having been routed, could be a big deal. Got some Dwarf Warriors with great weapons that came back from routing. Empire Knights now routing as well. And there's a few more Empire Knights over here, but they are tied up with a Thane, who is getting a steady stream of kills. Ungrim Iron Fist, very nice kills here. He's helped tank out this great sword. So really, the dwarves are starting a little bit of a roll here. We've got both Thunder units alive, and the only cavalry left around is Pistoliers, and Pistoliers probably can't defeat these Thunders in melee. Let's check out the Thunders up close. We don't get to see these guys very often, so nice use of the Thunders here against the Empire. I mean, a somewhat risky pick because of how much mobility the Empire has, but again, these guys are hard hitters against units like Greatswords because they're anti-armor, and they will do the damage. They will definitely do the damage. And it says decent melee combatant, you see there. Gyrocopter's still around and being a pretty big nuisance. Still keeping the Pistoliers busy too, and the Pistoliers have pretty limited ammunition, so this is quite good. Slayers are unbreakable, so they'll fight to the death here. 114 kills on those Slayers. Maybe a lot of Spearmen in there, but still not bad. Empire Knight trying to make their way probably towards the Thunderers. We'll see if this Dwarf Warrior gets pulled back in. Some of the Dwarf units starting to shatter. Gyrocopters shattered, one Dwarf Warrior shattered over there. There's a Spearman that can come back to the fight. Thunder's taking a charge from the Empire Knights. Let's see if their brothers in arms here can shoot down the assailants. And they will get the opportunity. I really like how they made gun units in Total War Warhammer be able to fire from all ranks. That way you don't have to spread them thin all the time. It's kind of nice. It's kind of nice to see Warhammer not be a contest to see who can spread their infantry the thinnest. Balanced bar right now. The Thane finally routs. 32 kills, though. 32 kills. Probably not bad considering he was up against a lot of great swords. Ungrim Iron Fist tanking out another great sword. This great sword is gone. Let's see how many great swords are left. Quite a few right here in this blob. Quite a few. If the Thunderers can just stay alive, though, the Dwarves have a fighting chance here. They are really close to this melee blob. Some Dwarf Warriors that have been held in reserve now going to come in. This is actually going to be very problematic for the Empire because those Dwarf Warriors are fresh, full of hit points, and it's going to take the Great Swords a while to tank them down. Very nice damage being done by the Thunders. These guys are definitely taking home MVP at this point because they are dishing out the damage here in the late game. So nice to see these guys, like I said, put to good use. I loved using them in my Dwarf campaign. I got a little bit too lazy for them sometimes because they're a little bit harder to use than some units, but still, they're definitely a worthwhile unit. These Dwarf Warriors are going to do a spectacular job here. Lots of, just a good defensive unit. They're going to hold these great swords in place for a long time, and that's going to be potentially a game winner here, but I mean, it's not over yet. You got Pistoliers coming back over here. You got Spearmen standing around there. Ungrim Iron Fist turns around, and he's going to be able to probably finish off these great swords. The Spearmen won't have a chance in Hades against Ungrim unless there's a whole lot of them. 9 ammunition left on the Thunders and 13 here. Pistolier is going to do a suicide charge here, and that might be useful with the Spearmen coming in. The Pistoliers themselves won't cause a significant amount of damage. They'll be more of a disruption, but Ungrim here is going to be able to come in and push these Spearmen out. This is a very close fight, and very well fought by Pokapax here with the Dwarves. Very well fought. And I'll tell you what, 16 kills here from the Dwarf Warriors up on these great swords is going to be very helpful right now, too. Ungrim Iron Fist about to take a charge from Empire Knights, which is going to really be too bad for him. But if he can keep them away from the Thunders, woof, Ungrim just got bowled. Thunder is being attacked by Spearmen and Empire Knights, but at the same time, the Empire Knights are going to be taking damage as Ungrim chases them. One Thunder unit is wavering, but hasn't routed. Gyrocopter with Brimstone gun still has ammunition. Thunderers are getting routed. This is bad news for the Dwarves at this point. The Great Cannons back on their equipment here, also very bad news for the Dwarves. So I'm not sure if the Dwarves have what it's going to take to finish this. It's basically up to Ungrim. And he will absolutely wreck these Spearmen, but he does have a Great Cannon firing at him, and the Empire is chasing down routing troops, which is going to be bad news for the Dwarves. But like I said, he's going to definitely be putting some wreck on these guys. Gyrocopter's still alive, though. That's a big deal. Let's see what kind of damage, if any, Ungrim's taking from the Spearmen. slow but steady. He's able to rout them. This greatsword unit could be a problem. Thunderers have not shattered, so this is very dangerous for the Empire. That's why they're chasing them. The gyrocopter could make use of this, but it only has 1 ammunition left. Looks like Ungrim's trying to chase out routing units. It still shows 5 minutes of battle left here. The Empire Captain, apparently Obelix just didn't know it, but the Empire Captain is back. This could be a benefit or a burden. It just kind of depends. Oh, the Empire Captain shattered right there. Yeah, so I was saying it could be a benefit or burden, and now it could be a burden because the Lord fled. A lot of wavering amongst the Empire troops. Like, they have some good troops left, but my bet is going to be on the Dwarf morale here. If these Thunderers come back from routing, I'm pretty sure that it's game, set, match Dwarfs. This gyrocopter is trying to get into melee with the Great Cannon, which will definitely be a good move because it will keep it from wavering. So, and it'll keep the artillery from firing, which keeps Ungrim safe. These guys have not come back from routing yet, though. 3 spear units have come back from routing. If this gyrocopter can kill the Great Cannon, it's going to be clutch. 71 kills is really quite nice on the gyrocopter unit. Ungrim will have no problem breaking these spearmen, so that's why they're fleeing from him. This has really been an interesting match. It really has. I don't know if these Thunderers are going to come back from routing, though, and actually probably a good move for the Empire to chase them. But at the same time, Ungrim has to die. And these 2 great swords are the only thing with enough damage-causing potential to do it. The gyrocopter stabilized because it's winning the combat against the Great Cannon. This Pistolier came back, but hasn't been brought back into combat yet. Ungrim has broken the spears, and it's still a very, very close fight. The Great Cannon just came back from routing once again. It's not headed back to its cannons. Oh, the cannons look like they're destroyed. Maybe? I can't tell. Yeah, I think they're destroyed. Like, it kind of looks like there's a wheel laying on the ground. So I don't think they can grab their artillery again. The Thunderers did come back from routing here, but got caught by a greatsword. That's very bad news for the Dwarfs. 100 kills, though, for that Thunder. Impressive performance.
For the Warhammer!
I kind of feel like the gyrocopter shattering this Great Cannon could be worth it just in terms of the power bar. Let's see what happens. We still got quite a bit of battle left here. Let's see where the gyrocopter goes. It's acting like it wants to... Well, I mean... If it rear attacks the great swords, it's possible it could break them. But if the great swords start winning the combat, they'll stabilize. So it's a risk. You would think gyrocopters would do more damage in melee with the big spinning rotor, but they do not. They are very weak in melee. So what do we think, people? Do we think Ungrim can take this one-on-one, or is the power bar going to end up being his enemy? We'll see. The edge of the map is still quite a ways off. It's right here. Looks like the... Oh, it's a draw, so it came down to time. Wow. Still, for the Dwarves to fight the Empire to a draw like this, I still think that's an impressive performance from Pokepax, but it's not like it was poorly played on the part of Obelix by any mean. I mean, he has some units here that got some good kills. The Dwarves were reeling and about to rout. And it's, you know, and Pokepax picked a good army here. His infantry was inferior to what the Empire fielded, but I mean, there's a lot of units in here that had to be dealt with, and it wasn't easy. The Thunderers weren't particularly easy to deal with because the gyrocopters were also harassing cavalry. I thought that Pokepax did a good job of not letting the cannons cause him too much damage. Again, I like the choice of the Thane here. I think the Thane got some work done for a relatively decent price. Ungrim did a good job, got some kills here. He didn't pick up any... well, they don't pick up experience chevrons, my bad. None of his infantry units picked up chevrons. 120 kills on the Slayers surprises me, but it's probably Spearmen because I'm not seeing a chevron out here again. No chevrons on any of the Empire units either, so that's interesting. Loved this battle. Appreciate Obelix sending it in. Him and Pokepax put up a nice game here. What did you all think about this? Did you think that the Dwarves were capable of giving the Empire such a run for their money? Again, nice pick by Pokepax. Seems to have a pretty solid understanding, even though he was saying he was fairly new in this particular Total War title. Seems like he's got a pretty good understanding of how to pick armies, and I like his choices there. Anyway, HeirofCarthage signing out for now. Tell me what you think down in the comments.